Hey guys, it's been a while. I have a lot going on right now, I guess. I kind of got burnt out on the whole YouTube thing. I didn't want this to start feeling like a chore. I wanted this to be something that I do for fun. So I was sort of just waiting for the motivation to get back up and start doing it again. I also got a new job, so that's been taking up a lot of time. Yeah, that's about it. I have for you today a series of books that I have read. It hasn't been a lot of books. Again, I didn't want reading to be a chore. I wanted it to stay something that I enjoy. So I've been taking my time with that and pumping the brakes on it a little bit. I was reading a lot for a very long time. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't want it to become something that I had to do. So yeah. Anyway, I have some books for you guys today. My camera is set very precariously on top of my laptop, on top of a bunch of boxes, so if it wiggles a little bit, I'm sorry. I'm also going to try and not do a nip slip. That would be great. So anyway, the first book I have for you guys today is called The Rules of the Road by C.B. Jones, and the summary is as follows. Do you ever wonder why it is sometimes you see a single shoe on the side of the road? What happens if you don't hold your breath when you pass the cemetery? Why should you pay careful attention to that strange speed limit sign, the one that reads 67 miles per hour? When an amateur journalist encounters a mysterious radio program while driving alone late one night, he is presented with a set of instructions with potentially fatal consequences. After escaping with his life, obsession takes hold, and he is determined to find out who is behind the broadcast and who else has been affected. His investigation leads him to speak with travelers and truckers, vagabonds and vacationers, models and rock stars, each with their own sinister encounter with the strange program. His search draws him into a world of deadly discovery from which there is no turning back. So settle down and buckle up. Stay alert for the signs to survive. Do not adjust that dial. Prepare to be a lucky or unlucky listener to the rules of the road. What will the static settle on for you? I quite enjoyed this book. I found it on a list of analog horror books in an article on Book Riot. Each chapter is like a different little short story. Each chapter is a different rule for the person listening, and they have to follow that rule or face dire consequences. It was pretty creepy in some parts. However, the ending did lose me a bit. I would recommend this book. If I had to rate it, I would give it 4 hotel ice buckets out of 5. So the next book I read is called Exquisite Corpse, and this is a book by Poppy Z. Brite. However, that is the author's old name. He now goes by William Joseph Martin. I just wanted to add that in there. The summary is as follows. To serial slayer Andrew Compton, murder is an art, the most intimate art. After feigning his own death to escape from prison, Compton makes his way to the United States for the sole ambition of bringing his art to new heights. Tortured by his own perverse desires and drawn to possess and destroy young boys, Compton inadvertently joins forces with Jay Byrne, dissolute playboy who has pushed his art to new limits even Compton hadn't previously imagined. Together, Compton and Byrne set their sights on an exquisite young Vietnamese-American runaway, Tran, whom they deem to be the perfect victim. Swiftly moving from the grimy streets of London's Piccadilly Circus to the decadence of the New Orleans French Quarter, Poppy Z. Brite dissects the landscape of torture and invites us into the mind of a killer. Exquisite Corpse confirms Brite as a writer who defies categorization. It is a novel for those who dare trespass where the sacred and profane become one. I thought this book was beautifully written, and heartbreaking at several points. I remember reading it and thinking, gosh, Jay is Jeffrey Dahmer. He reminds me so much of Jeffrey Dahmer. Why is he reminding me so much of Jeffrey Dahmer? And then come to find out, this book is actually a fan fiction. It's a Jeffrey Dahmer cross Dennis Nilsson fan fiction. So there's that. Like I said in my breakdown, there goes my idea for my Ted Bundy / Eileen Wuornos fan fiction. It's also giving Interview with a Vampire as well, but that could be just because it takes place in the New Orleans French Quarter. William Joseph Martin is definitely not afraid to write about the taboo. There were quite a lot of sex scenes in this book. So much so that even I was blushing at certain scenes, and I'd like to think that I am mature enough to handle that. I would recommend this book if you're not bothered by lots and lots of hot, sexy gay sex. If I had to rate it, I'd give it 3 bags of human hair out of 5. If I had to rate it, I'd give it 3 bags of human hair out of 5. And it would be higher, but like I said, it is written very much like a fan fiction. So, do with that what you will. The next book I read is called Experimental Film by Gemma Files. The summary is as follows. Experimental Film is a contemporary ghost story in which former Canadian film history teacher Lois Cairns, jobless and depressed in the wake of her son's autism diagnosis, accidentally discovers the existence of lost early 20th century Ontario filmmaker Mrs. A. Macaulay Whitcomb. By deciding to investigate how Mrs. Whitcomb's obsession might have led to her mysterious disappearance, Lois unwittingly invites the forces which literally haunt Mrs. Whitcomb's films into her life, eventually putting her son, her husband, and herself in danger. Experimental Film mixes painful character detail with a creeping aura of dread to produce a fictionalized memoir designed to play on its readers' narrative expectations and pack an existentialist punch. I didn't think that I was going to like this book in the beginning. It starts off pretty slow and boring, and as the book goes on, it turns out that I was right. It took me forever to finish the book because I just could not get into it. The pacing was not great. It seemed far too bogged down with unnecessary detail and exposition. I would not recommend this book, and if I had to rate it, I'd probably give it 2 Clifford the Big Red Dogs out of 5. The next book I read was called Gristle and Bone by Duncan Ralston, and the summary is as follows. A young couple discovers the secret of a tourist town's prosperity may lie in its sinfully delicious cuisine. Gonzo pornographers learn a brutal lesson following a tragedy they caused when life imitated art. Disgraced soldier Dean Vogel returns to his hometown and confronts the bullies and a traumatic event that happened in his past. A reporter uncovers what really happened to the latest internet sensation, a troubled girl who disappeared on camera. When successful restaurant owners Jim and Leanne Tamer confess to a series of grisly murders, their neighbor learns the gruesome truth that led them to kill. Gristle and Bone includes the novella Scavengers, plus 4 novelettes and 2 short stories. Cannibalism, monsters, vengeful spirits, the apocalypse, chock full of blood, mayhem, psychological horror, and good old-fashioned gross-outs. Gristle and Bone is a tasty treat for horror fans. I thought this book was just fine, if not a little forgettable. The first short story was concise and gory and pretty fun, so I had high hopes for the rest of the book. But it didn't really live up to my expectations, really, which may have been my fault. I'm going to do a breakdown on these stories in my next video, since it's on the disturbing book Iceberg, so watch out for that. I would softly recommend this book if you're a fan of horror novellas, but don't set your expectations too high for crazy gore or anything like that past the first story. If I had to rate this book, I'd give it 2.5 French waiter cannibals out of 5. And those are a few books that I read since I last saw you guys. Yeah, I'll try and update more frequently. Like I said, I don't want this to feel like a chore. I don't want this to feel like something that I have to do. This is something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy reading. I enjoy sitting down and getting to talk about these books with you guys. I enjoy that some of you actually respond back and seem to enjoy what I do, which is really awesome. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the support. The depression has been okay. I've been doing a lot of sitting around lately, not doing much of anything, so I'm trying to push myself past that. I feel like if I occupy my time with things to do, then I don't have time to be depressed. So I'm working on that. What have you guys been up to? I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And that's pretty much it from me. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.